What really makes no sense. Those of us that actually get things changed work within the system already set up for us to do so. Those who shout the loudest about how horrible and corrupt everything is refuse to use the same tools in said system, thus changing absolutely nothing. You saw the difference with Occupy Wall Street versus the Tea Party. Despite whether you like either of their politics, one group got the politicians they supported elected while the other did not. The revolution isn't going to happen when you can't even get the people you think would support it to muster up the willingness or energy to sign a petition, write/phone a member of Congress, or even join a special interest/lobbying group. Change happens when people put in the effort. Complaining is not putting in effort. I make it a point to interview at least once a year if at all possible, just to see what's out there, and as I've worked my way up in the pay range, I've made it a point to start off by telling headhunters and interviewers that my salary expectation would be $XXX and benefits. If they're not competitive with that pay range, then I don't want to work with them, and it's better that we save each other time. Plus, recruiters are honestly freaking stupid. I'm sure there's some smart ones, but the ones I've run into take a look at my LinkedIn and say, "Oh hey, yeah, you work for this multimillion-dollar company as a systems administrator with 17 years of experience. Well, you're not going to believe the deal I have for you. I'm sure you would love an entry-level help desk position updating computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10 that you would have to move halfway across the country for, that pays $10 an hour. It's a 4-month contract with no guarantee to hire and no benefits. It's not technically enough to live on anywhere in the United States of America, but I'm sure you want to uproot your entire life to take this wonderful opportunity to get your foot in the door in information technology." Close friend got cancer. She couldn't work during chemo, so she took a leave of absence. Since she was required to have a certain number of hours to maintain her employer contribution to her health insurance premium, she was suddenly stuck with a premium for $2,000/month. She had some sort of cancer insurance plan, I've never heard of it, but that's what she called it, that paid out just enough that she could keep her health insurance. She still had to fight with the insurance company at least weekly to get her chemo, supplies, oxygen, etc. approved. She got better, and they initially refused to pay for the PET scan to clear her to go back to work. But that's no surprise, because they tried to not approve the previous ones. Health insurance in the US is a fucking scam. Dentistry student here, bone is constantly breaking down and healing, because of osteoclast and osteoblast cells. It's constantly remodeling and adjusting to all powers and pressure you put on it. Thus, if you break it and cast it, the osteoclast and osteoblast cells remodel it together. Teeth are something different. It consists of two hard layers, enamel and dentine. Enamel is a very dense crystal. When it forms in your younger years, the enamel-producing cells, amyloblasts, move in layers away from the initial growing point. They can't stay there because of the density of the crystal and die off when they are done. This is because they can't receive nutrients. They can't fix the enamel anymore now when you get a cavity. Good thing about this is you now have one of the toughest crystals on the planet. Dentine-producing cells are different. When a cavity drills through the outer layer, the enamel, into the dentine actually does fight back. This is called the tertiary dentine, which seals off the pipe-like holes between the dentine crystals. This is because odontoblasts can receive nutrients and keep living there in an idle state. They form tertiary dentine because the inner soft layer of your teeth, the pulpa, is in direct contact with your nervous system and bloodstream. When the cavity breaks through this tertiary layer, you feel tooth pain. Edit, spelling. And this, the main goal of dentists, is to stop a cavity that is forming or prevent one from happening at all. When your enamel is destroyed by a cavity, we don't make a better tooth by filling it. We have to remove all the rotten dentine, because the little hole in the enamel doesn't spread. Under the hole is a huge part of dead dentine. So we have to drill out your whole teeth and remove it before it reaches the pulpa, and you need a root canal or worse. A filling mostly doesn't stay there forever. So brush your teeth twice a day with fluoride. The crystals can be reinforced with fluoride ions, which makes you less susceptible for cavities. And cavities which start opening up by acid-forming bacteria, your plaque, can be stopped by fluoride. Trust me 100% when I say fluoride is safe to use in toothpaste. It doesn't only save your teeth but also your overall health and wallets. All dentists cringe when they see or hear people use fluoride-free toothpaste, or as bad, charcoal paste. Those are made by total hacks who take advantage of you. It has to do with ACH clearing times. There are a lot of stops that your money has to make along the way, both ways actually, when you debit your account, buy something, or get a credit, refund, money back. It just feels like they take the money out of your account more quickly upon purchase, because leaving your bank account is the first step in the money's journey when going out, and the last step when it's coming back in. Edit, as a metaphor, imagine your roommate or partner, your money, leaves for work in the morning, you bought something. Once they need to go, they walk right out the front door of your apartment/house, your bank account. It takes them half an hour to get to work, but you don't really notice because it doesn't affect you. You saw them walk out and probably don't think about anything past that. Now imagine that you call them while they are at work and tell them that, for whatever reason, they need to come back, refund is issued. They will need another half an hour to commute all the way back home, your bank account, so don't get upset when they aren't walking through the front door as soon as you hang up the phone. Ladies and gentlemen of this supposed jury, I have one final thing I want you to consider. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a Wookiee from the planet Kashyyyk. But Chewbacca lives on the planet Endor. Now think about it, that does not make sense. Why would a Wookiee, an 8-foot-tall Wookiee, want to live on Endor, with a bunch of 2-foot-tall Ewoks? That does not make sense. But more important, you have to ask yourself, what does this have to do with this case? Nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, it has nothing to do with this case. It does not make sense. Look at me. I'm a lawyer defending a major record company, and I'm talking about Chewbacca. Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense. And so you have to remember, when you're in that jury room deliberating and conjugating the Emancipation Proclamation, does it make sense? No. Ladies and gentlemen of this supposed jury, it does not make sense. If Chewbacca lives on Endor, you must acquit. The defense rests. Here, look at the monkey. Look at the silly monkey. I've been trying to find statistics of how and where these types of people live. It seems like they all have one thing in common, and that's an attachment to Facebook and using it as real facts. Edit, so I gotten a lot of replies that these people existed before Facebook. I know that, but it's different now thanks to the power of the internet. The biggest thing is data manipulation and how these people are targeted. It might come as a shock to some, but some events are manipulated by data organizations that specifically target a certain demographic. They have an agenda, divide and conquer. A well-known example of this data manipulation is the Black Lives Matter protests. There were bots on Facebook creating BLM protest events, and real crowds of people would show up. If you're interested to know more, look up Cambridge Analytica, who were behind Trump's election success and Brexit. Who are these people that fall for it, and where they live is important, because if you hit this group the right way, you'll be able to manipulate them on a large scale. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a Wookiee from the planet Kashyyyk. But Chewbacca lives on the planet Endor. Now think about that. That does not make sense. Why would a Wookiee, an 8-foot-tall Wookiee, want to live on Endor with a bunch of 2-foot-tall Ewoks? That does not make sense. But more important, you have to ask yourself, what does this have to do with this case? Nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, it has nothing to do with this case. It does not make sense. Look at me, I'm a lawyer defending a major record company, and I'm talking about Chewbacca. Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense. And so you have to remember, when you're in that jury room deliberating and conjugating the Emancipation Proclamation, does it make sense? No. Ladies and gentlemen of this supposed jury, it does not make sense. If Chewbacca lives on Endor, you must acquit. The defense rests. Hate to be serious, but the American healthcare system, like with the insurance I have right now, which is pretty good insurance, if I needed emergency surgery because my heart gave out, I'd have to choose death and not to ever set foot in the hospital, or I'd either be buried in debt that I'll never pay off, or my family will be if I die in the hospital. Like, how am I a better customer to all of you dead? If I'm alive, I can continue to pay $20 or $40 every time I go to the doctor, and more for bigger stuff, and with everyone paying for that and going more frequently because we can freaking afford it, you'll still turn a great profit. McDonald's has it actually. Only make people pay like $12 for a whole meal and will come all the time because it's cheap as fuck, and now you've got a huge customer base who pay you all the time. But if McDonald's started charging like $100 for a burger, we would all stop going and they'd lose everything. But the problem is we can't boycott insurance because we need it, and if we don't, you get freaking dinged on taxes for not having it. Don't know if that's nationwide, but that's how it is in my state. Like, you want me to pay you, right? Then pay most of me getting my uterus removed so I don't develop cancer like every other female in my entire family, going back until we could tell medically that it was cancer, and probably before that. Or how about pay for my mom's cancer treatment so she's still alive in 5 years to pay you for follow-ups and shit? How is that not a better business plan? Living people pay an awful lot more than the dead, and people who can pay more than people who can't. People's obsession with brand name.